Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Balabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamuna Tiravana Shadhi Yamuna Tiravana Shadhi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Yamanatira Vanachadi Yamanatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayom Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parivajagacharya Astatara Satasi Simad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Gaur Premanandi Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, Chapter 2, Text 23, 3-23. Some of you may know the verse already. It's a celebrated verse. Aho Bhakiyam Stana Kalakutam Jigham Sayapadya Apyasadvi Lebhe Gatim Dhatri Uchitam Tatonyam Kamba Dayalum Sharanam Vrajema Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam. Jighamsaya payayad apyasadvi. Lebhegatim datri uchitam tatonyam. Kambadayalum sharanam vrajema. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam. Jighamsaya yasadvi. Lebhegatim datri uchitam tatonyam. Kambadayalum sharanam rajema. Ladies.
Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam.
Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam. Jigham shayapaya yadapyasadvi.
Lebhegatim datri muchtam tatonyam.
Lebhegatim datri.
Kambadayalum sharanam vrajema.
Kambadayalum sharanam vrajema.
Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam.
Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam.
Sayapaya yatapi asadvi.
Jighasamya yasadvi.
Lebhegatim datri uchitam tatonyam.
Lebhegatim datri uchitam tatonyam.
Kambadayalum sharanam vrajame.
Kambadayalum sharanam
Jema. Alas, how shall I take shelter of one more merciful than he, who granted the position of mother to a she-demon, Putana, although she was unfaithful, and she prepared deadly poison to be sucked from her breast. Purport. Here is an example of the extreme mercy of the Lord, even to his enemy. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stock of poison. In his babyhood, he was administered deadly poison by Putana, a she-demon who tried to kill the wonderful baby, and because she was a demon, it was impossible for her to know that the Supreme Lord, even though playing the part of a baby, was no one less than the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. His value as the Supreme Lord did not diminish upon his becoming a baby to please his devotee Yashoda. The Lord may assume the form of a baby or a shape other than that of a human being, but it doesn't make the slightest difference. He is always the same Supreme. A living creature, however powerful he may become by dint of severe penance, can never become equal to the Supreme Lord. Paragraph. Lord Krishna accepted the motherhood of Putana because she pretended to be an affectionate mother, allowing Krishna to suck her breast. The Lord accepts the least qualification of the living entity and awards him the highest reward. That is the standard of his character. Therefore, who but the Lord can be the ultimate shelter? Baki. Putana's being addressed as Baki. And because she is the sister of Baka. Baka is another one of the demons that Krishna killed. And her intention, we speak so much about the importance of intention, because it is important in our devotional lives, because the intention is reciprocated with by the personality of God. Therefore, our intention is very important, superlatively important. Now, her intention, Putana's intention, was to kill Krishna. But there was something of a mix of intention. That something of a mix was very slight. Her main program was killing Krishna. Her main program was killing children. And Krishna was the target, specifically under the request of Kamsa, because he knew Putana's expertise, and she liked doing it. That was her thing, killing little babies. Bad person, really bad person. And, or you can say, but, she had another intention, and that other intention, upon seeing the beautiful feature of this little child, of course, many people see little babies as beautiful anyways, but Krishna is the supremely beautiful child, and she became attracted, like a mother towards a small child, or even non-mothers towards a small child, some affection. Oh, he's so wonderful. It's also said, later in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, that she saw that he was like a sword within a sheath, meant for death. He's meant for death of many, many, many persons. She saw that. Now, she had some powers, shape-changing powers at least, so she had some kind of mystic powers, and one of those was just seeing the child that struck her. He is meant for the death of many, and she was one. But she had some affection, a motherly type of affection, and the gesture itself, although it was with malice, the gesture itself was a gesture of a mother or a nurse. Here that's the word, datri uchitam, just suitable for a nurse. Datri uchitam. She achieved lebhe gatim. She achieved a destination just suitable for a nurse. So Krishna accepted the activity, the nurse activity, and overlooked the rest. I mean, it's not that he didn't know, but he overlooked the rest. And at seeing the like a nurse activity, he accepted her as a nurse in the spiritual realm. Unbelievable. So the person speaking is Uddhava. The person who Uddhava is speaking to is Vidura. And just previously, Vidura has found, in the course of his travels to holy places, he found Uddhava. And, oh, Uddhava, how wonderful to see you. And immediately seeing Uddhava, what do you think of? If you're Vidura, you think of Krishna, because he's so intimately in association with Krishna, everyone knew. And there's Uddhava, so you think of Krishna. And he started asking about Krishna and Balaram and everybody related to Krishna. How's this one? How's that one? How's the other one? Interesting. Even though he knew they had already departed. Because before going to where Uddhava was, in Vrindavan, he had been to Prabhas. And while in Prabhas, he came to know the entire Yadu dynasty has gone. He knew. Yet he's asking about the outer dynasty members by name. How's this one? How's that one? And one of the explanations why he did like that is the same reason that when Vidura returned to Hastinapur to give his association to Dhritarashtra, he didn't mention that Krishna had departed, although he knew. And he didn't, for the sake of their hearts. He didn't want to break their hearts. Now, in modern times, people find some delight in giving bad news about some bad thing that happened, and you know what? Rah, rah, rah. And cultured people are a little reluctant to bear bad news because, according to Chanakya Pandit, Prabhupada has taught us this, one who is the bearer of bad news, the hurt feeling from the person on the receiving end of the bad news directs that hurt feeling towards the bearer of the bad news. In course of time, they would certainly find out. So why be the bearer of bad news? Now, it's not that we never do that. That's like a rule to be followed. You never speak of misfortune that came. It depends on the relationship and circumstance, etc. But he asked about Krishna, Balaram, and Ugrasena, and everybody. And Vidura just wanted to hear Krishna Katha. And he got a whole earful of Krishna Katha. Uddhava starts speaking about Krishna nonstop. His heart has been churned, and in his heart is thought of Krishna, and everything that comes out, because it comes out as thought of Krishna. And he is revealing his relationship with Krishna and his contemplations on Krishna. So it's educational, it's edifying for us to see how such an exalted person, so dear to Krishna, what's in his heart. It's very confidential. Not only what he said is confidential, but the contemplations of a perfected soul is who wouldn't want to have an understanding of their contemplations of an elevated soul, and he's giving it, and Vyasadeva knows it, and Vyasadeva is sharing with us. So it's he describes his pain, not only his pain in separation from Krishna, but he also describes in a very dramatic way his pain that ordinary people don't understand him, or they misunderstand him. They ordinary people, think of Krishna as an ordinary person, and that brings him great pain, because to have people think of Krishna as an ordinary person is very painful for him, because he doesn't see him that way. And various examples of an outstanding example is when Krishna was again with Vasudeva and Devaki, having killed Kamsa. The indomitable Kamsa was with one punch, he was finished, not just knocked, but dead. And he dragged him around the wrestling arena. We heard when visiting virtual Vrindavan Yatri, dragged him all the way to the shore of the river Jamuna in Mathura. So everybody would know he's dead. He's not just, unconscious, knocked out, he's dead. So when he then, after killing Kamsa, liberated Vasudeva and Devaki from prison, he apologized. He apologized for being afraid of Kamsa. I was afraid of Kamsa, he stayed away. It brings me great pain. No, it's an ecstasy, but part of his ecstasy is that one. It's the pain that ordinary people think of him as ordinary because he says seemingly and does seemingly ordinary things. But, he does many things that are not ordinary. And then ordinary people don't see those things as extraordinary. So this brings him great pain. So he's aligned his heart and his contemplation and his relationship with Krishna are aligned to his supremacy. And when it comes to this verse, it's one of the features of his supremacy. It's one of the features of a great soul, as described in the purport. A great soul, let's read what Prabhupada writes. It is said that a noble man accepts the good qualities of a person of doubtful character, just as one accepts nectar from a stalk of poison. So that person of noble character, that's a Paramahansa. It's not an ordinary, good man. Now, ordinary good men may have some trace of such a quality, overlook the shortcomings and see the greatness or the good quality. As I'm speaking this, I'm thinking of somebody when I was a teenager. There was an individual who was a little older than me, but it was a common practice of just a part of that person's character. Whenever someone was with a group of people and they would depart that group of people, that one person would always say some of the great things about this person. I mean, invariably, you could count on it. It was just part of their character. They didn't highlight on their shortcomings, although everyone has shortcomings. Who doesn't? Everyone has shortcomings. But they would appreciate their good qualities, this and that and the other. And it tells something about the individual that's speaking that way and how they view others. And by speaking that way, it helps the listener to see the good qualities, or similarly become affected by that tendency to see the good qualities. And when seeing the good qualities, it strengthens those good qualities, and it helps others who are hearing the glorification of good qualities to appreciate those good qualities. Of course, envious people become envious, but to appreciate the good qualities and strive to manifest good qualities, being inspired by those who have good qualities. What to speak of Krishna? So in speaking about this quality in Krishna, it's meant, for at least for Uddhava, it inspires his devotion. And this verse is commented upon in hundreds of places in our commentaries of the Acharyas, in giving us an indication of the qualities of Krishna, because we know the qualities of Krishna aren't at all different from Krishna. The qualities, the form, the pastimes, the name, etc., that in relation to Krishna, it's all Krishna. It's of the same absolute nature. So to appreciate this person who we're attracted to and trying to give our full shelter and service unto, it adds another inspiration to us to become such a servant. Not simply because we may get some good stuff because he's a giver of good stuff. So he's a good person to serve because he gives good stuff. I mean, one may think like that, and that's fine. But better than fine is he's such a person. Who can there be as a worshipable person better than Krishna? There is no one. So tendency, we know this from Bhagavad Gita, the tendency for worship is there. According to the modes of nature, if one isn't directing that tendency toward Krishna, and otherwise the tendency goes according to the modes of nature. But beyond the modes of nature is the tendency behind the modes of nature, the tendency toward worshipping Krishna. And worship of Krishna means to serve Krishna. Worship isn't just a gesture, and then you move on to other things in your life. Worship is service. And I selected this verse for a variety of reasons, but it's on the theme of what I said we would be speaking about, the sense of gratitude. And gratitude goes to one who we'll be hearing this as we go forward with these winter retreat and Vyasa Puja topics. Krita is a Sanskrit word that means a kindness or a favor or something that causelessly is just bestowed on someone or you. And then krita gya is gratitude. Knowing, acknowledging that kindness that's been given. And it's a processing, a conscious processing of a favor that has been given. So though the favor has been given to Putana, then what to speak of everybody else? That's the implication. The everybody else doesn't come to Krishna with the idea to kill him and so forth and so on. That was her, bad, just bad character, demoniac character. Her thing was killing babies. Gosh. And a lady, that was her thing, finding babies and killing them. She was she savored it. She was good at it. So how bad is such a person? Not just a criminal, but, wicked. And look what Krishna did. So what to speak of those that have any other, intention, favorable, positive intention. And so strengthening that favorable, positive intention has everything to do with the gratitude towards the nature of the person who one is wishing to express gratitude to or to be in service to, someone who is like that. And you can't find someone better than Krishna. Now, there are certainly personalities in scripture or in Vaishnava culture that are partake of that same quality, because Krishna is the source of that quality. Living entities are part and parcel of the source. So some degree, especially in pure consciousness or beyond the covering stage of consciousness, where seeing beyond the shortcomings and seeing the positive service and encouraging the positive service, recognizing it, appreciating it, glorifying it, reciprocating with it in whatever way one can, whatever is appropriate, That's a Vaishnava quality. Those who are worshippers of Krishna recognize that quality in Krishna and try to emulate to our own capacity that quality of Krishna, and it's found naturally. It's one of the teachings of Chaitanya Charitamrita, or teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and the Bhagavatam, because the teachings of Lord Chaitanya and the teachings of the Bhagavatam are the same. But such a quality comes naturally from one root quality, one essential quality, and that's taking full shelter of Krishna, Krishna Ekashanana. So whatever it is, this surrender or submission or being in the care and protection and service of Krishna, these qualities will awaken. One may certainly cultivate them, and should, but they also naturally awaken, just of the very nature of bhakti itself. And so it's kind of like a circle. One feeds the other, Recognizing this quality of Krishna inspires one to take shelter of him with a mood of gratitude towards, although the mercy went to Putana, we can appreciate the merciful and be inspired by the merciful. Not just, it can make one greedy to get that mercy, which is, one thing, but, aspire to take shelter and be in the service of one who has this wonderful quality. There's a nice phrase where one who has a simple and grateful heart, one can easily progress in spiritual life. Very, very nice saying. One who has a very simple and grateful heart can easily progress nicely in spiritual path, spiritual progress. So that's a nice thing to aspire for. And what does it look like? It looks like this. Uddhava's, an ideal example of someone who has taken shelter of Krishna and is inspired by Krishna's qualities. He knows them and he's moved by them. And one who knows them and is moved by them brings about the same in others by their association. That's the topic for this morning. See if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. We know that bhakti helps us to dissolve the karma. So still we have the tendency. So the devotional service, along with the real knowledge, helps us to remove the tendency. That's my understanding. Is it correct, Maharaj?
You spoke really fast at the very end, and I missed it.
Okay. So the devotional service, along with real knowledge, will help us to remove the tendency.
Sure.
That's my understanding. Is it correct?
Sure.
So that's the only way available to remove the tendency.
Yes. The knowledge is secondary. The knowledge is helpful in a secondary role. And the primary is the desire to be in service. So knowledge can guide that service. And knowledge is given to one who has bhakti. But knowledge is secondary.
Okay. So without knowledge, just the devotional service.
Without knowledge, Krishna will give it.
Okay.
We cultivate, but the distinction I'm making is Gyan is not the means to reach Krishna.
Mm.
Reaching Krishna Gyan doesn't become a zero, but it's not the means to reach Krishna.
Okay.
Gyan is given, and one who wants to be in the relationship with Krishna, they will read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, etc., in a mood of devotion, not just in a mood of cultivation of knowledge. Now, supposing one has a mood of cultivation of knowledge, well, you can become benefited by that, but you can't reach the position where material existence is dissolved and spiritual existence is fully awakened by that method of cultivation of knowledge. So it's in a secondary position. That's all.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, could you give some suggestions or practical examples on appreciating devotees' qualities? Sometimes we may not be like eloquent with words, or sometimes it may come off as like flattery. So could you give some examples of how we can properly express gratitude or glorify devotees' qualities?
Even if it's clumsy, what's important is from the heart. And, if clumsy is okay. And inadequately, it's the important, supposing somebody is good with words, but the heart orientation is not there. That's also felt. I mean, we've all had experience of that. So by devotion, the quality will come. Yoga kshema vahamyaham, right? So express gratitude. That's my recommendation is begin. In principle. Does that help? It's something like any other quality. Here, a really easy one to make a comparison with is the quality of charity. A or B. Become charitable when you have lots of money and you have discretionary funds in your hand and you're thinking about how to use these discretionary funds. Or B. In principle, be charitable. Whatever it is that you have, you share what you have because it's a good principle to live by. Even if it's small, you be charitable. And then as you have more, if you have less, whatever it is, the principle should be in your life. So that's an easy one. And same with this other one. The principle is the same principle. Because it's good, to your capacity, you do. And the orientation from the heart is what's important, not one's eloquence. Now, I we've all had the experience. You may say or do something that's meant to be for the appreciation of another person, and they take it just the opposite. It happens. Do it anyways. Because Krishna knows, and in course of time, the truth will prevail. So this, your heart's orientation is the important element, and then you connect that heart's orientation with something that you know is going to please Krishna and help you, go further towards Krishna. So your capacity, you do. We have something way in the back.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So Putana's intention was to kill Krishna, but when she saw him, she developed an affection for him. Is this why she got the highest position in the spiritual world because of that affection, or Krishna? I mean,
I understand the question.
Yeah.
It's two things.
Mm-hmm.
It's two things. One, the affection.
Mm-hmm.
Two, the behavior. The behavior was she acted as mother.
Mhm.
And Krishna accepted her as mother. And having accepted her as mother, he gave her that position.
Mm. So even though she was just acting like a mother, that's still good enough for him in one sense.
That you got it.
Yeah.
She gave her breast to feed Krishna, and he accepted her breast. And that's the position of a child in relation to a mother.
Mm.
And so he gave her that position. That's how our acharyas describe it consistently. Krishna was thinking, I've accepted.
Mm.
She should receive. It was a service, the service of a mother to a child.
Mm.
Krishna accepted. The intention was all over the place, but he accepted the service. So then how important is it for us to align our intentions properly? You follow?
Mhm. Although her service was not necessarily pure devotional service.
Of course not. It wasn't pure
Yeah.
devotional service. Of course not. Yeah. So Krishna can establish rules, and Krishna can, break the rules.
Mm.
And this is one of those cases.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj. When we try to see the good qualities in devotees and focus on that, is there also a risk of taking up their shortcomings by associating with them, and how to be cautious of that?
The question is clear. Was the button on? Okay, good. So I'm for remote people. Okay. Protection for us, for the jiva, is bhakti. Without bhakti, the risk is there. With bhakti, you're protected. That is to say, you're giving service. You're not receiving unwholesomeness. It's like book distribution. When we're going to distribute books, or any activity that we're giving Krishna consciousness, we can go to very unwholesome places where people are doing unwholesome things and saying unwholesome things, and it's bad association, and we can go in the midst of that situation, and in the mood of giving bhakti, mindful of the bhakti principle that is carrying us forward, we're protected. And when that same place, or whatever, we're not in the mood of service, we're at risk. Now, supposing one goes with mixed, then there's some mixed. But the bhakti principle is the protection. Krishna is to extend his protection to his devotee. And it's just a realistic fact. I'm remembering, as I'm speaking this, one of the devotees in New York named Radha Ballabha. Later he became the production manager of the BBT when they moved to Los Angeles. But for a while, he was with ISKCON Press in New York. And what we did every Saturday was everybody in the temple, because there were over 100 people in the temple, including the BBT people or the ISKCON Press people. Everyone went on Sankirtan. And some of the devotees went to late at night places. When it's late at night, people are doing bad stuff. One of the places they found was a good place for book distribution was drive-in movies. when people that are driving movies, they're doing bad stuff. And his comment to me coming back really late at night, because I had to wait. I waited up for everybody till they came back. I remember very clearly. We go to these places and we're protected. But tomorrow morning at Mangalarti, because it was men on this side, ladies on that side, one can become attracted to the ladies on that side. Just, although you're at Mangalarti. But we're protected when we're in the mood of giving Krishna Bhakti. And whatever the medium is, not just book distribution, anything. So that's our protection, because we're in the care of the internal potency. The external toxic potency can be all over the place. Now, if there's some contemplation, maybe there's some enjoyment over there, then that's a risk. Like the caution for a sannyasi when going to a householder's home and accepting alms and giving Krishna's message, the sannyasi should not think, oh, looks like they're enjoying here. Maybe I'm missing out on something. And if one is thinking like that, then, the protection isn't there. So if the enjoying spirit is curbed by the mood of giving and being in the care and protection of the internal potency, then yes, there's risk, and there's also risk if you don't. There's also risk if you don't. And, choose your risk. So check the position of protection under the care of bhakti, and then what does bhakti look like? And here's one of the things. And so we do to the best of our ability, and internally and externally, to be in service. That mood of service is powerful because it attracts Krishna's protection. Okay, something further?
May I ask a question about yesterday morning's class for the Chinese?
Yeah, sure.
devotees?
You have the microphone.
One of the Chinese devotees asked about the creation of the soul.
Creation of the soul. Yeah.
Right, and there's no such thing. So the question was irrelevant. My thoughts were going to, I don't know exactly the Sanskrit, but I believe there's a statement that the absolute truth desired to become many to enjoy himself further.
Sure.
So I was thinking, and that's ontologically, right? It's not a
There we
not a
go.
moment in
There you
time.
go. There you go.
So, but my thoughts were going like, in regards to her question, that might be the purpose, the reason why we exist, rather than why we're created. It's the reason why we exist eternally.
Okay. Two things. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes that giving teachings and language itself has its limitations because it places things within time when there are things that are not within time. But in order to explain them, the frame of reference is as if it's in the frame of time. Like, for example, Krishna's expansions. Sounds like within the frame of time. Krishna's first expansion, and so forth. But it's not. It's an ontological distinction. So now, what's something that's eternal, like living entities that aren't created, and they're emanations of his Detached Shakti, and the purpose of that Detached Shakti, the purpose of all Shakti, the purpose of everything, is the happiness of the source of everything. Sounds like the limitation of language is, it's as if it's in the realm of time, but it's not. So the purpose of the living entity, the answer, part of the answer which you're repeating in your question is, for the pleasure of Krishna. But it's not that once upon a time there was no living entities and Krishna looked at his watch and said, you know what, I'd like some pleasure. And poof, there's living entities, as if it's an event in time. But it's the purpose of the living entity, it's the purpose of everything, is the pleasure of Krishna. And misuse of that is another thing. The purpose can be missed. And then there's consequences. So the short answer, again, is just a limitation of language. And to get beyond the limitation of language, recognize there's limits to the language that we use. It's just helping us get a picture of something that's beyond our experience. You know, what's eternality anyways? What is an activity that's eternal anyways? It's like your head bounces against the wall because activity is past, present, future. It's as if it's in time, but there's eternal activity. And this is it's an eternal event. It's an ontological event. Okay. You have something? Can we take the microphone?
Archana Mataji has two questions.
Okay.
Archana Mataji has two questions. Hare Krishna Maharaj, we learned that the demons sent by Kamsa were given higher destinations by Krishna. Can it be understood it's because they were just following Kamsa's orders, or it was not by their own intention?
Well, the language of the question is a little perplexing when she says higher. Higher is relative. Higher than what? Higher than the other forms of the Lord. When other Vishnu Tattva forms kill demons, they don't achieve the same thing as when Krishna kills the demons. I mean, I'm not sure what she means by higher, but so leave that to the side. It's not because Kamsa sent them. It's because of the merciful nature of Krishna. Because living entities that weren't sent by Krishna were also given the same destination. Liberation. That's the nature of Krishna, not the nature of who sent them.
Thank you, Maharaj. And her next question is, also you mentioned Krishna accepted Putana's gesture of being a nurse to him. Does this mean that he can accept externals if he desires so, or because it was not her intention, but she was just following Kamsa's orders?
It's subtle. What our acharyas say consistently has nothing to do with following Kamsa's orders. What our acharyas say consistently is he accepted her gesture of mother, and he reciprocated, acknowledging this was her gesture. She offered her breast milk. That's a gesture of a mother. Having accepted that gesture of hers, he gave her that position. So I hope that answers.
Thank you, Maharaj.
It's not an either or. It's just the gesture. There's nothing. It's Kamsa unrelated. Go ahead. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay, something over here. Come.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In one of the senior devotee lectures, I heard, she walked through a list of, qualities.
Do you have the button on? Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Can you hear me?
Better.
Better, yeah. So in one of the senior devotee lectures, she was walking through the list of qualities that, Krishna appreciated, just like having eyes in the living entities, and the topmost was, doing your duties without any attachment. Can you give some good examples for that in a Grihastha life?
You're asking me to give some examples of how a Grihastha can satisfy Krishna by offering the results to Krishna?
Yes.
That's your question?
Yeah.
Somebody in correspondence just asked that question. Somebody from Australia just asked that question. No, they're from Singapore. So, there's levels, beginning, intermediate, and higher levels. But let's just assume we're just speaking, beginning level of offering the fruits of your work to Krishna. Well, the beginning entry level of offering the fruits to Krishna is Sakam Karma Yoga, then Nishkam Karma Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga. So Sakam Karma Yoga is fruits go to Krishna, and I have some expectation that I'll be rewarded for offering my fruits to Krishna by something that I'll benefit from. And it may just be purification, or maybe whatever it may be. I want, pious credits so that I can prosper in this and the next life by offering my fruits to Krishna. And I'll get release from the karma of those activities by offering the fruits to Krishna, or at least some of the fruits to Krishna. So that's Sakam Karma Yoga. So what does it look like? It looks like, you have an income, and some slice of the pie goes directly to propagating Krishna consciousness to a Vaishnava, a Brahmana, or an organization that furthers consciousness of Krishna. And that's just a principle that I live by. It's, has everything to do with, in the entry level, has everything to do with your income. Now, that's in the modern context. The broader context is the agrarian culture, but let's just deal with modern context. People have some income per month or per year or whatever it is, and they make a budget, and some portion of their income goes to Brahmins, Vaishnavas, and the organizations that further Krishna consciousness. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, we find that there's even below that, and that's, some good cause. Right? Mm-hmm. That's described in Bhagavad Gita, and Prabhupada explains. So let's just go to the, furthering of Krishna consciousness idea. So that's as a householder, my duty is to be charitable, and that we consider what charitable looks like, and so it's the further Krishna's interests. So I give charity, in various ways, because that's what I as a Grihastha do, and that's a principle by which I am living by becoming detached from the fruits of my work. Nishkam Karma Yoga is the expectation of what I'm going to get back from this becomes less important and disappears in course of time. Rather, it becomes a mode of goodness principle. The mode of goodness principle is, I do this because it's to be done. I'm not with, the hook, I'm doing this so I can get something. It's just Nishkam Karma Yoga. And so then again, it's a budgetary kind of thing, or a principle to live by kind of thing, that as a Grihastha I have means, and means will be entangling if I don't use those means with a higher purpose. So that higher purpose is to be fulfilled. And, then but I have to look after my dependents and my maintenance. So some part of budget goes for that, some part of budget goes for the other. And then a higher principle is a bhakti principle. That is, even the maintenance, it belongs to Krishna. That's the consciousness behind paying your electric bill and your mortgage and your car payments and putting gas in the car and all those things and going to shopping. It's in relation to Krishna's service. So it's not just a portion, but my life is in service to Krishna. And that consciousness behind the activity doesn't need to change. It's the consciousness behind the activity that whatever is in my hand, whatever has been given to me, it's Krishna's. The verse, Isavashamidam Sarvam from Ishopanishad, we're entitled to our quota by the arrangement of Isha, and I don't take more than that. And that's part of the consciousness of Agrahasta. That is to say, Rupa Goswami gave an ideal example, which Prabhupada repeated over and over, and it's really hard to attain. I only know a few people that live by this principle. 50% of your income, and then 25% and 25%. So I know somebody that's striving for that, currently, young, married, with a child, striving for the 50% principle. And, anyway, so there's gradations.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. We have something over here.
Maharaj, there's another online question.
Okay.
This is from Akshay Hudlikar. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, what is the motivation for doing Nishkama Karma Yoga? If one is working in a detached way, doesn't know who Krishna is, what drives one to work in that way?
Well, it can be the mode of goodness can drive one to work in that way. And the mode of goodness can include recognizing passion burns. I see people living by passion, and I see they get burned, and I don't want to get burned. I don't want to live by that principle, so I want to live by the mode of goodness principle. I mean, I when I was in college, I came to know of somebody that was living by that principle. It was really interesting. The person was capable of building a house from scratch, and he had a vehicle, like a vehicle and a trailer, and he would go from house to the next house, and his whole business, he didn't receive money. He received his tools, a place to stay, and his meals. Whatever tools he needed, he didn't charge any money for building a house. And he was just being maintained. And then he went on to build the next house. And it was good. So, that's, so why was he wasn't a Krishna Bhakta. He was somehow, moved by that mode of skill and detachment from the fruits of his work. And I don't know, unto whom was he offering the fruits, but it was in the mood of karma yoga, detached work, Nishkama karma yoga. And that's that's pretty rare. But, the mode of goodness is pretty rare in this dark world, Kali Yuga. But there's principles that we can see examples of and according to our nature, move forward. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much, Prabhupada Ki Jai.